So this past month, we've been talking about the art of mindfulness. And this will be the fourth in that series, fourth and last for the moment. And the title of today's talk is, It's Easy to Count to 6. In fact, if you've heard that commercial on television, and 6 is more than 1. How's that for a statement of absolute inanity? So this is just, it's easy to count to 6. In the March edition of the Science of Mind magazine, there were several articles centered around the topic known as mindfulness. And it caused me to wonder what that word mindfulness means to different people. So for this past month, our Sunday talks and our midweek gatherings, for those of you who have not been able to make it to them, have also been centered around these messages from the Science of Mind magazine for these talks and presentations on the art of mindfulness. We've already addressed mindful breathing, mindful observation, mindful awareness, and mindful listening. Each week there have been some exercises in the article from Alfred James in the Science of Mind magazine for us to help us empty our minds, so to speak, and find calm amid the hustle and the bustle of our daily lives. Yes, even here in paradise, there can be hustle and bustle in our daily lives, yeah? James writes that being immersed in mindfulness is not just being in the present moment, it's also cultivating contentment in that moment. For example, we can be mindful of a task that we're performing and yet anxious to complete it, such that we're rushing or wanting to be done with it so we can hurry up and go do something else. True, we have heightened our awareness of this task and in this task. Now the suggestion is to go to the next step, which is to fully experience the task. Immerse ourselves in it. Align ourselves with it physically, mentally, and spiritually. The example given in the article is to do this while you're cleaning something. Perhaps your garage, a room in your home, a part of your garden or your yard. And as I thought about this, my list of possibilities grew. Don't you know? Don't we always begin to do that? And it grew, and it grew. I thought of cleaning and straightening filing cabinets. I thought about the trunk of my car. I thought about the toolbox out in the garage. The refrigerator. Routine tasks that I usually treat as a chore, which means I procrastinate about getting to them. So I decided I'm going to pick one of these. And as I do it fully experiencing it. By paying attention to every detail and aspect of my actions. In other words, to be content to be in the moment of what I'm doing rather than constantly looking at the clock or wondering how long this should take or what's coming next, or whether I'm going to put avocado on my sandwich at lunchtime, but rather to be just in this moment and content with what I'm doing. So I began by picking one that I knew was relatively easy on this long list, and that was the trunk of my car. So I could practice this mindfully. And after I finished that, I decided, okay, I'm going to cross it off the list. and I'm going to add something new to the bottom of the list. And continue working with this idea, one mindful task at a time. So you see, that changed the whole dynamic of that list, didn't it? It was no longer something I had to keep crossing off until everything was crossed off the list, because it wasn't about the list. It was about me being present and content in the task that I was performing. So it doesn't matter whether the list gets done or not. What matters is that I have that experience in the now in each of those tasks. So, and besides, it's my list, so I can add to it and reprioritize it as I choose. I don't have to stay with the order that. See the possibilities here, the choices here, the freedom here, and yet being mindful in the task and being content with being in that task in that moment rather than projecting ahead to what's next and how long will it take and how is this detracting from that. See the difference? Wow, when you begin to really think about this, you can tell immediately where you are in that continuum. So I've found already that cultivating contentment in the act of cleaning or reorganizing something does require mindfulness. It's truly an exercise in being and staying in the moment. So, as recommended in the article, I noticed the muscles that I was using as I took things out of the car or rearranged them or set them where I wanted them to be. The movements that I made in moving forward and back, and I'm still being careful about bending over yet. So, and that means, bending your knees instead of your waist. I noticed that the tools that I used in each part of the task served me in a different way. The contentment actually occurred not in finishing the work, but in doing the work. Which is so interesting because even though we're focused on the outcome, there are steps that we take in getting to the outcome, regardless of what the task is. When we are in spiritual mind treatment, though we have an intention, we have an outcome that we seek, we follow certain steps in getting there, don't we? We even have them designated and suggest that we do them sequentially so we remember. The mind remembers to say what we came to say and not to worry about it while we're doing it or to try and critique it afterward and be afraid that we've forgotten something. So we have a pattern there and we have an awareness of that. So even within the getting to the outcome, there is order and harmony. And that's what we're talking about here. That the contentment is in the order and the progress. And when that's the case, the outcome is inevitably what we intend. So now let's address the sixth exercise in Alfred James' article on mindfulness, that of mindful appreciation. First, I want to say that doing number 5, which was the one I just talked about, immersion and contentment in routine tasks, is a marvelous exercise in moving into mindful appreciation. Because when we're in the present moment mindfully, and we're observing the tasks that we're performing, appreciation is really a no-brainer. When I felt my arm muscles responding to moving and lifting objects out of the trunk, it was easy, almost imperative, that I appreciate the magnificence of the structure of the body. When I switched on the vacuum to clean the floor of the trunk, I had immediate appreciation of electricity, for one thing, and of the small, maneuverable tool to remove dust and dirt. Otherwise, I would have had to climb in there with a broom and some kind of a container to sweep it into. So much easier with electricity and this little vacuum cleaner. I was in deep appreciation for the auto manufacturer for the design of the trunk, which was easy to access, and the floor covering on it. When I finished, I went back into the house. I poured myself a cold drink and appreciated its coldness, its taste, and its immediate availability. And I had it. Then I sat down in my recliner, and the appreciation bubbled up again for the comfort of it, the ease and flexibility of its settings, its easy access. Wow, I thought, this contentment and appreciation is contagious. It's not only about the task being performed, it's about who and what I am in the process. And that goes with me from task to task. Oh, I get it. That goes with me from moment to moment. What we heard this morning in Standing in the Light, that very same thing. So in the article in Science of Mind magazine, James devotes the 6th session, the one on appreciation, to taking this out into the world around us. I've titled this section of the talk, The Final Exam in Mindfulness. Because like everything else we teach in Science of Mind, it must have practical application in this plane of existence. It must support our own individual purpose in being here, to have validity and staying power, if you will, in our individualized consciousness. James suggests that you notice 5 things in your routine day that usually go unappreciated, probably even unnoticed at the conscious level. They can be objects or people. It's up to you. For example, electricity powers your refrigerator and your freezer, also your microwave and your stove. Your clothes provide you with warmth if you live in Waimea, cooling if you live at the beach, and protection from blowing dirt and dust if you live in Waikoloa. But you have options, don't you? Your nose provides you with the scent of flowers, of perfume, of food cooking, of incense burning. How about the person you talk to on the phone who arranges your shipment of something that you've ordered from far away? And the people and process in the warehouse that find it, address it, and ship it. So the exercise to practice from this 6th concept of mindfulness is this. First of all, do you know how these things or these processes came to exist, or how they really work? Have you ever properly acknowledged how these things benefit your life and the lives of others? Have you ever thought about what life might be without these things? Have you ever stopped to notice their finer, more intricate details? And 5, have you ever sat down and thought about the relationships between these things and how they play an interconnected role in the functioning of the planet. As I was sitting here writing this talk on my MacBook Air laptop computer and drinking a cup of Keurig brewed Starbucks coffee in a heat-retaining ceramic cup with my iPhone next to me and 4 commercially grown orchids blooming all around me, and while the Samsung TV was playing soothing music in the background from the Soundscape channel, I realized that cultivating moment-by-moment awareness of my surroundings offers me a moment-by-moment opportunity to observe, to listen, to immerse in mindful appreciation. And at that moment, I heard the doves outside. One of those beautiful sounds I used to think about before I moved here, and how it was always a reminder to me of how much I loved Hawaii. Now I can hear them every day. And this exercise was a reminder that I hadn't been listening. So thank you, Spirit, for that wake-up call. Well, I trust that this series has provided each of you with something to ponder, to practice, and to appreciate in your day-to-day journey through life. We all have the capability to be mindful. This is not an attribute of being that's reserved only to the cloistered. It's one of the qualities of God that resides within all of us, simply awaiting our recognition and acceptance of it as valuable in our lives. It's also an exquisite example of clarity, of intention, and results. When our attention is observing, listening, and immersing ourselves in mindful appreciation, the practice of organizing, supervising, and criticizing dissipates for lack of attention. What a magnificent thing our minds are. Meditate on that one. And so it is.